When we hear about due process, it is your right, but it also protects not only the people, but the government from mistakes. That's just part of the basic due process where whether you're arrested or the government wants to do something to you, you have process rights before they do it. And that brings us to a very real-world example of how law and incompetence are troubling the Trump administration. They admit the mistake. They have now deported a Maryland father on one of those El Salvador flights in, quote, error. They got the wrong guy. He was here legally, and he's being treated like this and sent down there where he's now stuck. Kilmar Abrego Garcia has legal status in the U.S. He actually originally came from El Salvador all the way back in 2011 and is protected under a court order that says he cannot be sent back for safety reasons. The administration says they knew, and they deported him anyway. So this is just a giant failure. Garcia arrested after work one evening while picking up his child. Agents telling him his status has changed. That was false. And then, within days, he was loaded on that flight. No due process, no hearings, none of the actions which, as I've said, are supposed to protect him, but also would protect the government, which has an interest in not deporting the wrong people or misidentifying.
That's an unfortunate story. I hate to hear that kind of stuff. But he originally snuck into the country. And we got to start in the beginning and not get caught up in what MSNBC is trying to do here. MSNBC don't give no damn about this guy being deported, but they found a story that's worth pulling and tugging at your heartstrings, and we ain't falling for it. The thing here is an unfortunate tale. But when you've had millions and millions and millions of people sneak into your country and all they can pull up, is that all you got? Is that all you got for real? It's just one guy who got inadvertently deported, but he still isn't a United States citizen. And he came here illegally. So once you come in this country illegally, you have broken the first law, and everything you do after that is illegal. You might come into this country and build a nice life for yourself and for your family. I understand that. But it is completely ignorant for me as a taxpaying citizen to support that. That's not where I want my tax money to go. Not one penny of it. And against my will, it's happening. And against a lot of other people's will. Serious for us to start thinking about this as just straight propaganda and manipulation. If this guy wasn't trying to manipulate us with the sad sob story about this poor gentleman who was picking his child up from school and deported, which is a sad story. Nobody want to hear nothing like that. No one in the world should have to endure that kind of stuff. But when you sneak into a country, everything that happened after that is kind of like a roll of the dice. Sneaking into the United States of America does not guarantee you a good life. It does not guarantee that you get the same rights as the citizens of the United States get, or that needs to be put into our Constitution. That needs to be put down in some legal format so we all understand what we're dealing with here. And that being a United States citizen ain't so special no more. Maybe we can relinquish our citizenship and not pay taxes like they're getting away with in a lot of areas. Of course, they contribute to the tax base because they go in our businesses and use our services over here and pay taxes in that regard. But in payroll, there's no payroll tax if you're an illegal immigrant. And I don't understand why they're so easy going with the companies that are letting these people come in. They're luring them in by the millions. And one instance like this, and we're going to just go nuts. Not me. I ain't falling for it. I feel that if this guy was given the opportunity to go to court, to fight this and litigate this in the United States court, it's a waste of United States taxpayer money, because he is an illegal alien. He need to be processed like one. He got some kind of special status under Obama. Obama need to be worried about giving people over here special status. Our court system is bogged down, and then you want to add hundreds of thousands of immigration cases to it and make it even worse. And these are a bunch of cases of people who are not tax-paying citizens. Can add up all the tax base that they brag about, and then add up the amount of taxes that we're paying for the other services. If they came here financially independent and didn't use social services, it'd be a little bit different. But they're coming here and burdening us in so many different ways. And when this happens, it is disingenuous for MSNBC to come out here tearing people apart, any administration, and making them sound like bad guys because they chose to deport. I mean, I'm sure if he was a United States citizen, this wouldn't happen. Maybe because of his legal status, and it may not be readily available. I don't know. But I know that the United States participates in way worse things during other administrations, like the last one, and nobody got mad. Nobody was manipulating you into hating Joe Biden for giving missiles to Israel to blow up buildings with kids in them, because one person in the building was a person they wanted dead, one of their targets, probably justifiably in a warlike sense. But once he enters that building with all those other souls in it, no one has the right to blow that entire building up just to kill that one person. During the Joe Biden administration, that's what we were supporting. That's what we were supplying and participating in. And no one was that mad on MSNBC and pointing it out to you in that way. And it's facts. So I just hate to be so overdrawn with sadness when this young man was deported but not killed. He will live to fight another day, and unfortunately he had to go through that. And nothing personal against him or his family, but damn, we gotta not use manipulation and tug at people's heartstrings on a story like this, when in the grand scheme of things, genocide trumps this.
Identifying Americans as gang members and denying them of all rights and shipping them abroad. If it could happen to him, I've told you it could happen to others. He's in the infamous terrorist confinement center down there. The White House, while admitting the error, also has statements they're making about him to somehow justify.
You guys notice almost every jail they talk about, almost everyone is like infamous for being the worst. You go to LA County, that's like infamous for being the worst. You go down to the prisons down in the South, oh shit, those are the worst. Texas, they got some names. You know what I mean? Northern California prisons. It's just everybody's infamous for having the worst. But I was looking at this file footage that he's showing, which is probably the El Salvadorian prison or holding facility or whatever the hell they call it over there. But I was looking at this facility. It looks so clean, and the inmates, you know, is kind of cooperative, and I don't know it. But the guards do have rifles inside the facility. You don't see that firearms like right there standing next to it. Like damn. So yeah, that seemed like the real deal over there, and it's horrible for somebody to get deported into that. But it's worse for a person and a network like MSNBC to use a story like this to manipulate us into believing that Donald Trump's just deporting a whole bunch of American citizens. Even if, I mean, and not even if, but because this guy was deported, he still wasn't a United States citizen. Or then we would be a little more up in arms about it. And the Democrats are using very bad language when referring to illegal immigrants because they're calling them American citizens. And they're not American citizens. They're illegal immigrants, or call them by their status. But when you make it or just throw around American citizen like that, and it don't mean that much, then I don't know. It might not be that important to be an American citizen or beneficial to people financially. Maybe if we weren't citizens of the United States, we qualify for more. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out where they're going with this. And it is a sad story, but to go and do a big old story on this, and you as a network were in business when Biden's administration was responsible for what was going on over there in Israel, as far as supporting it with weapons and any other way that Netanyahu needed or wanted. So I just want the same energy so it doesn't feel like propaganda and rhetoric and manipulation. It feels like a news story. Right now, it feels like you're just trying to hypnotize a certain group of people in Democrats who may be waning off of you or falling off the support wagon or going to the other side completely. That ain't the way to get them back. Good policies, governing the proper way, winning elections, and having the American people support you in whole. When a president's in there kicking ass and when they're not. And right now, Trump is just getting started, and we don't know. Listen to this, it would have you really nervous about what this man is about to do, and he continues to go down that path. And the sun better not start shining. I'm telling you that right now, or MSNBC is gonna fold. Why are the ratings dropping? Why are they looking so bad over there, and why are they resorting to this?
Trump officials admitted the deportation was an error, though, in written paperwork. And now they say, despite all the powers they want to exercise on immigration, there's actually nothing they can do. They make the claim that U.S. courts do not have jurisdiction to seek his release now that he's out of the country.
It makes perfect sense. He is not a citizen of the United States. He was accidentally deported back to the country that he's from. He got some stuff going on over there that makes it unsafe for him to be locked up in a prison over there, apparently. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know the details of that. But the facts that we can, derive are he was here in the United States originally illegally. Somehow he maintained some kind of temporary status that prevents him from being deported. Fast forward several years, about a decade, and then Trump's in office, deports him by accident. Oops, it's a bad thing. But now it happened. But as a result of that, you don't have the right to say, hey, can we have that one back? He's not ours. He's really not ours. And he really is a citizen of El Salvador, and it needs to be ironed out in that regard. And now he can apply for citizenship. If there's a shortcutted line for people who have snuck in the country and lived for several years and then got deported, he needs to be in that line. But if there isn't, then he got to get in the line that everyone else does. Our senators and governors and presidents and council people need to get on the side of Americans and stop treating it. I'm jealous. I'm actually jealous. The treatment that the illegal immigrants get in comparison to what I get as a black man here. Ain't nobody fawning all over me and pulling for me in that way, in the economic way. And that's what we need as black men. We need people to fawn over us and pull for us and go for us and support us, and what is so special about these illegal immigrants that you guys don't have right here underneath your noses? You're clogging your prisons and your judicial systems with black men, and then you come in and throw on top of that more immigrants you plan to cram into that same system. And is that what it's all about? Is that the way it's supposed to go? You got a gold mine right here if you would only notice it and deal with it and get the economic engine started.
Country. That is what looks like an error. But you can imagine a different scenario where the government does the exact same thing I just told you to an American or a critic or a professor or a political opponent or a journalist and says, they're not, they're gone. They're in a foreign prison. And remember, on top of all that, Trump can get a lot out of El Salvador with his cozy relationship there.
Real talk, if Trump really wanted to get the dude back, he probably could pick up the phone and call the president and be like, hey, man, he probably could do it without a doubt. The presidents have a lot of power and a lot of influence. But it's the same power and influence that damn Biden had when he was given weapons and giving Netanyahu the ability to kill children, to commit a genocide. If anybody disagrees that what went on in Israel was a genocide, and this story is a story that didn't have to be done. There's other ways to make Trump look bad other than trying to make it look like he's deporting a bunch of Americans. They're not. And I do believe that some people are going to follow. But when you have millions of people poured into your country, and that only happens every once in a while, it really ain't that bad, unfortunately, for the guy. But this is so horrible and misleading for MSNBC to do. And some people really do look at this and think it's real news.
El Salvador is an interesting one because I know the president. He does it differently, smart.
No country's ever made an offer of friendship such as this. It's just one more sign of what an incredible friend we have here in President Bukele.
And I have great respect for you, and I really appreciate what you're doing.
The United States is not only a partner and an ally, but also a friend.
The evidence suggests if President Trump called El Salvador after them helping on this thing and said, well, we sent one person there wrongly, send them back, that they could get that. So again, that also doesn't pass the fact check.
Well, the fact check was just 3 or 4 edited clips of people saying what you needed them to say at that during that conversation that they were having. And then that's not a real fact check. And to use the word fact check when you create the fact check or whatever. And if it comes to whether it being factual or not, and let's assume it is, where are you going with it? That Trump could get him back, but isn't? What if a president exercised his presidential power for everything that MSNBC thought they could do? They weren't leaning that heavy on Biden. That's all I'm saying. And they're trying to tug at our heartstrings because they don't got nothing else. Economically, they're getting us ready for what Trump is about to do. And they're getting everybody upset and out in the streets. I'm starting to see crowds, news footage, people actually spending their afternoons and evenings out and mornings out picketing and demonstrating. The Democrats have been a failed party, or they wouldn't even be in this position. They're a failed party. They won't admit that there's a failure. They want to admit that Trump cheated or the Trump people are dumb. They voted for him because they don't know what they're talking about. It has to come down to intelligence, or it has to come down to something that still puts them on a higher ground. It puts them in a place where they feel, you know what? I'm better than them. It's more of them, but I'm better. I'm smarter. Yeah, I'm a Democrat. I know, and that's messed up. That they won't just rebuild the party where it helps more people. And I mean, not in social programs, not in welfare, even reduce Social Security. Reduce Social Security so that when the people pay into it, it's dealt with in a way that it's going to be there for them when they come back out on the other end. And not gambled away on the stock market and not put in some other way that is going to benefit someone short term and jeopardize your long term. It's just, we come to a place where it's way too tribal and it's nothing we're probably ever going to be able to do to turn that back. But the one thing that we can do is fight for the right team. And that's what I think the basic premise of Black Popcorn and the things I think about, and the things I hope for everybody in my community is that we just have an understanding of really what's good and what's bad. And it would be nice if everybody was being honest when they say good and bad and meant it, and not good and bad and just meant, oh, things that affect me are bad, or, in a bad way are bad, and things that I like are good. That's not what good and bad is. Good and bad is really good and bad, and we all know what it is. But being honest and admitting it, and having shows like this that just take you into rabbit hole after rabbit hole because they found a 1 in a million case. And I really mean that, because it's millions who've come in. And if that had happened on that large of a scale where, 1,400 in one day, 5,000 in a month, that's significant. But still, to sneak in the country originally doesn't relieve you from potential deportation. There's no 100% guarantee of a wonderful life when you come into the United States.
Meanwhile, Trump supporter and recently conservative, although sometimes sort of more iconoclastically independent, podcaster Joe Rogan, who literally has tens of millions of listeners. He had a big Trump interview before the election. He says this is wrong.
You got to get scared that people who are not criminals are getting lassoed up and deported. Horrific. It's horrific.
I don't think that should be controversial.
No, that's not controversial at all. And this is the thing, measured twice, cut once.
Yeah.
This is kind of crazy that could be possible. That's horrific.
Horrific, says the Trump supporter. He attended the
Hear that? Horrific, said the Trump supporter. So if you support Trump and he does something that you don't agree with and you're talking about it and you say, that's horrific, how that happened or when happened or whatever. I get it. It don't mean you oppose the guy. And to keep editing and snippets of people saying one bad thing about Trump, if that's what he's trying to do. But we just need to look beyond that. We need to look into other things that Trump is doing and not doing, and the real truth of what's coming out and happening. Everything that Donald Trump is doing isn't good. It's not gonna go well. It isn't. Everything that Biden didn't go well. People died. You know what I mean? Our money that has been broken up, the U.S. aid and all this stuff, there's going to be some harm done in that. There's going to be some people who probably should have got some of that money on the other end. But is it the United States taxpayers' responsibility? I don't know. That's what we need to come to an agreement on. Do we want it to be our responsibility? Because if we do, it is. But there are politicians using U.S. aid in Africa and some of these other nations as a way to funnel money to their brother-in-laws and cousins and neighbors who are contractors, who own the companies that are own the nonprofits. You know, I mean, if that's what the game is, then yeah, maybe that shit should go away, or maybe it should be reformed or something. And some of that stuff is some greed and some theft. And all you hear from this side is about the people who are being harmed and the part that makes your heart hurt, but they won't talk about what makes your pocket hurt. What's making you not have enough money when you come home because they're busy out there funding bullshit. I don't know, man. We got to quit letting people on both sides manipulate us. Listen to the media, listen to both sides, but go in there with some kind of thought process of your own. And then you should be able to disseminate what's going on here to a good degree and not be done like this. Because you vote in the wrong way because someone made you feel bad about one guy who got deported when another president is allowing or was allowing an entire genocide to happen. You know, not that most of our presidents haven't been responsible for that kind of death on mass levels in various countries just by backing these people, not knowing that who dies or when they die, but facilitating the weaponry, the technology, and the ability to kill on mass scales is you're playing party to it, and that needs to be talked about more than these stories. When it comes to manipulation, I wouldn't consider manipulation. If somebody said, "Hey, Trump is blowing up buildings with little children in it," which he probably is, as we speak, probably, but if that's the story, that's the kind of stuff that would sway me. That's the kind of stuff that should sway you. That's going to make you think differently about a president or our government or our agenda or what is the United States doctrine. Because as of right now, Trump is changing it. And it needs to be clearly spoken to us so we know where our tax dollars are going. Because that's what it's all about. The tax dollars stop, there's no country. So as the citizens who are funding this country, we need to understand who we're bankrolling and why we're bankrolling them. And the politicians got to accept the fact that their day is over. The internet and then too much information out there to be doing backdoor deals. And everybody got a channel and an opportunity to audit one member of Congress if they choose to and find out if their brother-in-laws or lawyers that have contracts that might be a bit of a conflict. It's a lot of that going on, and it needs to come to an end.
Inauguration, and horrific because it's wrong. Anyone who is too partisan to recognize when facts show mistakes or something is wrong, or you have picked up a father who's legally in this country and send him down to an El Salvadorian prison, and you don't have the mental ability or, quite frankly, the guts to acknowledge that, then the government's problem is also yours.
Wow. So if you didn't get anything he said over the course of that story, then the problem is yours. If you don't feel like he feels about it, and are willing to shut it down, like he's willing to shut it down. As far as Donald Trump goes, I'm just more excited now to let some of him. I would hate to stop Donald Trump's plan because he was elected as president, and I don't think that most people who voted for him, whoever those souls might be, did it out of ignorance. They did it because they knew what they wanted and what he was telling them. I don't think he's talking much different now than he was talking on the campaign trail. So for the people who are in the minority to try to stifle a president's agenda and hope that they really can do it, it's a horrible thing. Like, damn, and this is a democracy? What kind of democracy is this when you can't just find a way to strengthen your ideas, strengthen your party, strengthen your position, strengthen your constituents, strengthen yourself, and then come back in 2 years and then the next 4 years and get it going, with ideas, with fresh people. Take care of some of those old Democrats and get them out of there. So the next round, we see fresh faces and we hear new voices, and people who never listen to politics start listening because it's somebody who's within 50 or 60 years of their age leading and not. Do you realize that there are people voting who Maxine Waters is 60 years older than, and they're voting? And for her, why? Any of them old folks, they gotta go. They get up there on the mic and get stuck, and one of their aides has to come get them. That's it. That should be your last day on the job. What would you do if you were a pipeline operator or air traffic controller and you just froze at the desk and everybody's like, "Hey, are you okay there, Black Popcorn? Wake up." Can't get away with that stuff. Anyway, folks, this is what we're up against. I'm here to protect you against the rhetoric, against the brainwashing. And some of it's happened, but I wash brains. We dry clean too. Like, comment, share, and please subscribe. And we'll see you on the next Black Popcorn. If you made it this far, then hopefully you enjoyed the video. I really would appreciate and do appreciate the support. Hit the subscribe button, and thank you for being a part of the Black Popcorn community.